Picture this. It's 1914. A man lies dying in a Washington hospital, far from the home that he built with his own vision and fortune. His last thoughts aren't of his wealth or of his famous name, but of his library, the smell of leather-bound books, the view of misty mountains through tall windows, the sanctuary he will never see again. Now picture this. It's today, and a tour guide leads visitors through that same library and suddenly freezes. The room has grown colder, and there's a scent in the air, old tobacco, aged paper, and in the corner, for just a heartbeat, just a second, a shadow in the shape of a man, sitting exactly where the owner's favorite chair once stood. Welcome back, my darklings. For those of you that are new here, I'm May, and welcome to the Dark Folio. Think of this as your creepy little coffee break. We're talking folklore, hauntings, true crime, all those dark stories that make you lean in and listen just a little bit closer. 15 to 20 minutes of the strange, the unexplained, and the absolutely fascinating. And if you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back for another dose of creepy. So grab your favorite mug, get comfortable, and let's dive into the darkness together. Tonight, we're opening a particularly elegant page in the Dark Folio. A story not of a crumbling ruin, but of perfection frozen in time. A place so vast and beautiful, it almost feels too perfect to be real. And maybe that's why the dead refuse to leave. This is the ghost file of the Biltmore Mansion. They say that every home has a heartbeat, the rhythm of footsteps, the whisper of family voices, the echo of laughter in empty halls. If that's true, then the Biltmore's heart beats like an empire. Built between 1889 and 1895 by George Washington Vanderbilt II, the youngest and most cultured of the legendary Vanderbilt dynasty, this estate was meant to be nothing less than an American palace, a private paradise wrapped in the mist of North Carolina's Blue Ridge Mountains, where a scholarly dreamer could finally build something eternal. It took 6 years and over 1,000 workers to complete. Craftsmen and artisans shaped 250 rooms, libraries that could swallow cathedrals, hidden corridors winding through stone, servant tunnels threading beneath marble floors, and banquet halls grand enough for kings. Even today, standing before its limestone facade feels like stepping through a doorway into another century. The grand staircase spirals upward like something out of a fever dream. The winter garden fills the air with the impossible scent of eternal spring. But behind all of that beauty, there's a whisper, a sense that the Biltmore never quite sleeps, and that some who walked these halls never truly left. Unfortunately, George Vanderbilt didn't get long to enjoy his creation. On Christmas Eve of 1895, he welcomed his first guest to his completed palace, a celebration of everything he dreamed about, and he had barely 19 years to live in his masterpiece before fate came calling. In 1914, at just 51 years old, George died suddenly in a Washington, D.C. hospital. He'd been gone just for a brief trip, was planning on coming right back, but he had complications from what should have been a routine appendectomy. He had a blood clot in his lungs, and it stole him from the world just 10 days after that surgery, far from the mountains he loved and far from the library where he felt most at home. His beloved wife, Edith, was left to manage the massive estate alone, and though she kept it running for years with fierce determination, her grief settled into the walls like morning fog, and then the whispers began. Visitors and staff have long reported strange things in the Biltmore's vast halls. Faint laughter drifting down empty corridors at midnight, the sound of footsteps pacing the library long after it's been closed for the night, the scent of pipe tobacco where no one's been allowed to smoke for decades. One of the most commonly reported hauntings centers on the library room, George's favorite sanctuary, his escape from the social demands of hosting the wealthy elite. They say if a storm is coming, the Biltmore takes a breath and George returns. Before his death, George had a habit. Whenever dark clouds gathered over the mountains, he would retreat to his library, sink into his leather chair, and lose himself in his beloved books while thunder rolled overhead. It was his peace. It was his refuge. Edith used to tease him about it. She'd have to come find him during parties, gently coaxing him back to their guests. "George," she'd say, standing in the doorway with mock exasperation, "George, they're asking for you." Today, tour guides whisper about visitors who swear that they felt a presence in the library, a shadow settling in the corner, exactly where George's favorite armchair stood. The scent of old tobacco, the faint rustle of a page being turned, though no one else is there. Others describe a low conversational voice drifting between the stacks, not angry, not alarming, just present, as if two people are having a quiet discussion about art or philosophy, the way George and Edith once did. If you stand very still in that room, they say you can feel the weight of it, the pride, the solitude, the love the house held for him. And for a moment, just for a heartbeat that belongs to another century, you are sitting with George Vanderbilt, keeping company in the place he loved most. But George isn't alone. It's said that Edith herself still lingers too. Long after George's death, servants would sometimes hear her voice in the library at odd hours, soft, tender, searching. "George, are you here?" And today, when the house is quiet and the tours have ended, some claim they've heard a woman's voice calling out just the same, her tone gentle, yearning, as if she's still trying to reach him across the veil of time and loss. It's easy to imagine her walking those echoing halls at night, her footsteps soft on the marble, still trying to coax him away from his books one more time, still hoping, after more than a century, that he'll finally answer. And then there's her, the lady in pink. Some guests swear that they've glimpsed a swirl of rose-colored silk just beyond the banister, drifting through parlors and east wing corridors, a figure that moves like memory itself, searching, longing, never quite solid. Her presence is often described as melancholy, not threatening, just unfinished. A story that ended before its time. No one knows for certain who she was. Some say it's a guest who died near the estate. Others whisper darker theories. A mistress, a tragedy, a love that couldn't be. But whoever she was, she hasn't found her way out. Now, let's descend down into the basement, where the servants once worked in shadows and steam, where the kitchens hummed with activity, where an indoor swimming pool once sparkled under electric lights, and tucked within that basement maze lies one of the strangest rooms in the entire mansion, and they call it the Halloween room. At first glance, it almost looks cheerful. The walls are covered in hand-painted murals, with carnival faces grinning from the brick, swirling colors, wooden soldiers marching in formation, witches flying through the orange skies, and black cats with their knowing eyes, all painted in bright, bold strokes of orange, black, yellow, and red. It feels like stepping into some kind of party, a party that never quite ended, a celebration frozen in time. The story recently uncovered by Biltmore historians goes like this. In December of 1925, George and Edith's daughter, Cornelia Vanderbilt Cecil, and her husband John decided to throw a party unlike any the estate had ever seen. A bohemian ball, a New Year's Eve celebration, inspired by a wildly avant-garde Russian cabaret troupe with a name that I am going to butcher if I try to pronounce it, but it did have an American translation called The Bat. For 3 weeks, Cornelia, John, and their friends painted the basement walls themselves in a burst of laughter, champagne, and creative rebellion. They turned a storage room into a theatrical wonderland. Folklore creations, dancing goblins, soldiers, and witches straight from that troupe's program designs. And on December 30th, 1925, Over 100 guests descended into that basement room, dressed in costumes, armed with instruments, and ready to dance until dawn. One guest later wrote, "It was the best party I have ever attended." But some say the energy of that night never faded. Even now, the room feels alive. The painted faces seem to shimmer when light passes over them. Visitors have heard faint music echoing from nowhere, the ghost of a waltz, a soft giggle, the clink of champagne glasses. Cornelia would eventually leave the Biltmore behind. Tired of its weight and expectations, she fled to Europe, dyed her hair pink, changed her name, and joined the bohemian art scene in Paris. She never returned to Biltmore in life, but it's said that the Halloween room still carries her spirit, her laughter, her defiance, her one perfect moment of freedom before she vanished from the grand house she was born to inherit. Further down in the basement, past the servants' quarters and the wine cellars, lies the indoor swimming pool. State-of-the-art for its time, it once held 70,000 gallons of heated water beneath dazzling underwater lights, a luxury almost unimaginable in the early 1900s. But there's something about the white tile walls and vaulted ceiling that unsettles people. Even empty and drained, the room feels wrong, heavy, like it's holding its breath. Tours regularly report a sudden chill sweeping through the space, a hush so complete it's like the house is listening, and then a sob so soft it could be the echo of a finger tapped on glass. Some claim to hear splashing, laughter, even though the pool hasn't held water in decades. And down below, where the tile keeps secrets and the light thins, people talk about a woman in black. She's said to move along the pool's edge as if watching a scene that happened a long time ago, her dress a dark smear against the pale tile. There are whispers, unverified, undocumented, but persistent, of a child lost to the water. The historical record is silent. Biltmore officials deny it ever happened, yet visitors say they hear a faint splash, a child's laugh, distant and distorted. Whether truth or legend, the pool keeps its story locked beneath the surface. And the unease it stirs, well, that's as real as the cold tile beneath your feet. And from the stark comparison of the cold basement, we'll move to the gardens outside, the gardens that are bathed in golden afternoon light, where many claim to see a boy darting among the azaleas. He laughs, he runs, he vanishes before you can truly focus, a blur of motion, a shimmer of joy. No one knows who he was, but he lingers like the memory of childhood in a house that has always been larger than life. Some say the Biltmore isn't haunted in the way of tragedy, but in memory. The laughter of guests who dance till dawn, the hum of music drifting through the parlors, the elegance of 1,000 perfect moments frozen in amber and stone. Maybe what people feel there isn't malevolence or sorrow, it's the echo of love, of grief, of longing so vivid that it's carved itself into those very walls. Whether it's George and Edith, forever searching for each other in the halls that they once called home, or the women in pink and black, drifting through rooms where their stories ended too soon, or the children who roam the gardens and pools in whispers and giggles. One thing is certain, somewhere in those endless halls, beneath the shimmer of chandeliers and the hush of velvet drapes, beneath the weight of history and wealth of dreams, something is still moving. And unlike some haunted estates that lie forgotten and crumbling, the Biltmore is still very much alive today, open to visitors from around the world, a place where the ghosts and the living walk the same marble halls, separated only by the thinnest of veils. And if you ever find yourself in Asheville, North Carolina, standing before those towering limestone walls, limestone, which, by the way, is supposed to be a great conduit for anything supernatural, well, take a moment and listen. You might hear footsteps where no one walks. You might smell tobacco where no one smokes. And you might feel, just for a heartbeat, that you're not quite alone. And maybe, just maybe, you'll understand why the Vanderbilts never truly left. Because when you build a paradise with your own hands, with your own imagination, how could you ever bear to leave it behind? If you're enjoying these journeys into the dark and unexplained, do me a favor, take just a second and hit that follow button so that you never miss an episode. It literally only takes a second. You can hit follow, like, subscribe on any platform that you're on, YouTube, anywhere you find your podcast, but it means the world to me. It is the only way that someone who is not already familiar with this podcast will find it. It's just the way it works. The podcast hosts, YouTube, they just don't share unfamiliar new podcasts and videos to people without having lots of subscribers and lots of likes and follows. So please, please, please take the time and do that for me. And if you really loved this one, you can leave a rating or a review, a comment. That would be fabulous. It helps all the other darklings find us in the shadows. If you've got your own brush with the paranormal, an unexpected experience, or a local legend that I should know about, please reach out and tell me. The Dark Folio has its own Facebook page, and you can head on over there, check everything out. Feel free to message me through Facebook Messenger on that Dark Folio page, or feel free to email me at thedarkfoliopod@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your story. You might even hear it featured in a future episode of the Dark Folio. I would love to share my listeners' experiences with other people. It would be awesome. So thanks for spending your coffee break with me today in the Dark Folio. And until next time, keep your eyes open, your coffee strong, and remember, the best mysteries are the ones that never quite let you go. I'm May. Keep that flashlight handy, just in case.